welcome back to another review. Today I thought we'd take a look at probably my favourite King Hu film. I mean, I love all of his films, but I think Dragon Inn for me is probably my favourite one, otherwise known as Dragon Gate Inn. For the sole reason it just seems to include all sort of the King Hu like hallmarks just in this film and what made him such a great director. I think this is one of these films that I think to me it's my favourite, but I know that's all subjective, but to me personally I think it's his best film. But yeah, we're getting into Dragon Inn today, just giving you a brief idea about the film, a bit of a review, a bit of insight into the film. This film, along with Come Drink With Me and Fate of Lee Khan, are known as the Inn trilogy of films. It was made in 1967 and it's been remade a couple of times. Most obvious one that springs to mind is New Dragon Gate Inn with Donnie Yen. There's also Flying Swords of Dragon Gate starring Jet Li. Set in the late Ming Dynasty, this film always used an inn as a place of sort of conflict. King Hu, I mean, I think it's, like I say, it's where people meet, it's where strangers come, it's where ambushes happen, it's where fights happen, it's where people come in who have got a different backstory, and then you sort of intertwine with other characters, and it turns out they're after the same thing, or they're tracking somebody, or they're after somebody. The inn is a very good place where sort of stories are told, where I say people come together. So much story can be held like from just the inn alone. The film, most what I find amazing, the film even outgrows The Sound of Music in Hong Kong. Like, I mean, you take something like The Sound of Music, which to us Westerners like on every Christmas and things like that, and everybody knows as The Sound of Music, but this film even outgrows Sound of Music. It was the first film that King Hu actually made after he left Shaw Brothers as well. So as he'd done Come Drink With Me, which I reviewed previously, and then he went on to make this film here, Dragon Inn. Basically, regarding the plot, there's this evil eunuch, and he has sort of he's one of these generals, these opponents sort of beheaded, and he sort of framed him like this general, and he wants his children dead as well, who have been sort of exiled. And they was exiled, and then he thinks, no, better off, tell you what, actually I want them dead. And this evil Eastern group who are working for the eunuch, they lay in wait at the Dragon Inn to kill any remaining members of this family who have been exiled, who are on their way somewhere else. And the owner of the inn, Wu Ming, was actually one of the general's friends who was framed, and through the aid of this lone martial artist tries to save, with the aid and help of this lone martial artist and this brother and sister team, try and help the children of this framed general just sort of escape and just get free basically and take down the bad guys. A lot of the same things in this that we see in later films by King Hu. Not saying he repeats himself, but the inn, the idea of the evil government officials, people on the, government officials, people on the run, scout, like the lone warrior in this is a scholar, he's an expert martial artist. Zhao, I believe his name is, if I recall right, I think it's Zhao, or Zhao. He's the scholar and expert martial artist. Wu Ming is like a military strategist. Chu, one of the brother of the brother-sister team, he's like a hothead and he's quick to react to things, and his sister is there sort of like as an intelligent, skilled fighter. Again, very strong female characters, like I mentioned with Come Drink With Me and Touch of Zen. Very strong, more than capable female characters. These rag team of four bring all different personalities that make up our team of good guys that are there to just help these people. And I think I like the plot. I think the plot's I say you can look at it, like I've mentioned before, with all of King Hu's films, as quite simple. They're just trying to protect these children from these evil guys. But it's just with a lot of his films, it's just the way it builds. It's just the atmosphere that it sets, especially at the end. When there's like poison in the wine and things like this, and there's just really a lot of fun to be had with this film. So as mentioned, these villains sort of take over the inn, and Zhao comes in and knows something isn't right. He spots some blood on the table, and they try to poison him with the wine. And again, the suspicion goes up. Everything's all polite and civil when it starts, and then he spots something, and he's like, because he knows, like I mentioned, he knows the owner of the inn. And they are saying they're from the Ministry of Justice when they're not, when in fact they're from the Eastern group. And wonderful scene where Chu's are sitting down, and Zhao lets them know the wine has been poisoned when the brother and sister team is sitting down. And it's really tense because everyone is being civil and hiding their true intentions, and he's trying to the she's trying to stop her brother from drinking the wine. He has no idea that it's been poisoned. When they go to bed, like sometimes they're being ambushed and things like this, and it's very sort of, I wouldn't want to sleep in this inn if these guys are trying to kill us. It's very, like I say, the atmosphere. I know I keep using that word with King Hu, but it's just the way the inn and just the characters are all set up. It's just wonderful. It's like I say, really tense when everybody's just all polite and civil, but they're all hiding their real intents and purpose. That is what makes these films so good, though. You get characters, you get setting, you get locations. This is like a true artist with a story to tell and letting characters in, like habit his world. That really you have just like I say, a story that can be quite simple. But you get these characters, you get this scenery, you have the wonderful cinematography, you have the setting, you have the right pacing, you have sort of the drama. It's not just quote unquote sort of a martial arts film. It's very rarely, another thing with these kind of films, there's very rarely any music on fight scenes, which with these kinds of films is always weapon and sword based, and it makes it more real. Sometimes, if you've ever noticed in certain films, when music isn't there, I know it's like in some films they have like a soundtrack going all the way through it, like the music doesn't stop. There's always some, especially Hollywood films, there's like from the minute the film starts to the end, there's soundtrack, there's some music playing. Sometimes when music stops and there's no music actually playing, it actually adds to the intensity of a scene, especially particularly a fight scene, especially some form of confrontation or a martial arts sequence. When there is no music there, it really adds so much to it. It really does make it, like I say, a lot more intense. Where this film was not Shaw Brothers, and as I say, was made in Taiwan, who made full use of the landscape, the locations, the ravines, the mountains to great effect. He really did put everything, but he wasn't just limited to a studio here. He went to Taiwan, and he, like I say, everything around him he did use to a great effect. Something that was not always easy to do at Shaw Brothers. It's almost like every location, like I've mentioned before, the way sometimes he sets up a shot, even if it's like I say, just a picture of the landscape or something, it's almost like that landscape was specifically designed for that film, for that shot. I mean, it's so artistic, it's so picturesque, some of the shots that he does. I mean, it's really amazing stuff. I mean, it just looks incredible. Although many say Touch of Zen is Who's masterpiece, is Dragon Inn, like I say, for me, that is one of my favourite films, only because it really did sort of set up the template and filmmaking ideas that are still being influenced today, and that's why it's it's been remade a couple of times and it's regarded so highly. But then you could say that pretty much about all of Who's work. I mean, I don't think they should ever like sort of touch of Zen and things like that. I think sometimes in this world of remakes, rehashes, reboots, everything. I mean, it's like sometimes you do worry because you just, especially in Hollywood and Western films, you're just worrying they're running out of ideas. Nobody comes up with anything fresh now, and it's just like they'll do a reboot of something, and then 3 years go by, then they'll do a remake of the reboot, and it's just sometimes it becomes so tiresome. But like with a lot of things, sometimes you just can't ever beat the original, no matter how much you try, and no matter how much people try and do something new to try and get a quick buck, let's remake this. It just more often than not, it just doesn't work. But my advice, if you're new to the world of King Hu, if you've never seen any of these films before, I mean, you could start with Come Drink With Me. But my advice would be probably to start with Dragon Inn. I think this is pretty much, because this was after he left Shaw Brothers, so this is King Hu pretty much in full control here. He didn't have any big producers like breathing down his neck. This was him pretty much in control, doing his own thing. I think as well it's probably his most accessible film, but I think, like I say, where he had a lot more control, production is there. He had a lot more say in what was going on. It's a compelling narrative, and it just works. It's just a King Hu film all the way, throughout. And my advice is, say, if you've never seen it, see it. If you're new to the world of King Hu, probably start with this one, because I think you'll really enjoy it. I mean, look, regardless of the characters, like I've mentioned before, the story, even just like I say, the landscapes, just everything. The way it's a really beautiful film, like all of his work is. But I'll probably wrap this up now. But as I say, if you've never seen this film, check it out. Go and check out Dragon Inn, and then you can watch the remakes with Donnie Yen and the other one with Jet Li. But check it out. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you soon.